We knew sales were bad for Ram in the last year and 2 years, but all this extra inventory tells us how bad the situation really is. And the fact that people are not buying them. A lot of their competition from Ford is grossly outselling Ram, and GM has had a breakthrough year with outpacing even Ford as the best-selling pickup truck. And yet Ram, like these vehicles right here, back in 2018, 2019, were some of the best-selling pickup trucks in North America. Boy, has that table flipped. Things are looking so bleak with the drastic reduction in sales overall since last year that it makes a person wonder, are in fact Ram trucks going out of business? And there's a couple of main reasons we want to talk about. Cost of living crisis is huge, and that's one of the big deterrents. We know Ram's one of those brands that continually escalated their prices to the point where they're trying to pitch their product to a luxury car buyer, but that's not the vehicle that appeals, and clearly they're out of touch with the core buyer for these types of vehicles, the middle-class working Joe lunchbox like myself and like many of you. Let's talk about what the average income of the average US citizen is all about and how much they should be paying for a vehicle. And clearly a lot of these vehicles are way outside what the average household income should be even buying. How much are some of these trucks? But here we have a Ram. This is clearly a heavy-duty truck. Specifically, we have a Laramie right here, 4x4. Yes, you do, well, no spray and liner, so not even value. Most of Chevys are adding spray and liners there. You do get, of course, a rear slider and of course a step bar. I do like that Ram part. That's pretty interesting, cool for sure. You do get the painted handles right here, big towing mirrors. This is the turbo diesel. You get the Cummins special. I would say Ram has the best full-size diesel engine, HD engine. This one here is a 3500 HD, as you'll notice right there. So this is the big granddaddy, single rear wheel. Yes, you can go with a dually, and there's higher level trim, but this is almost top pop with the Laramie. And we're looking right here, and as you can see, crew cab Laramie night edition 4x4, and its stickers at a blistering $114,000. Now, many of you ask you, are these Canadian US dollars? Yes, these are Canadian dollars, but clearly even that's going to be almost a $100,000 truck. But let's take this from the top, and it's not very hard to spend $75,000 on a full-size Ram these days. But let's break this down. The average US household income right now is about $105,000 per year, and since 21-22 we've seen a 2.2% decline in the overall buying power. So that's why a big reason why a lot of people are electing not to buy a lot of these vehicles. They're simply very expensive, the prices have gone up, and the buying power that a lot of customers have or have had have waved bye-bye. So based on that $105,000 annual household income, a person should not really be exceeding after tax, because that before tax is about $9,000, and then after tax you deduct your personal income tax, you're down to about $6,000. And based on best practices, a $6,000 net income per month should not exceed a $600 or $700 a month car payment. And then here we have a heavy-duty tradesman truck, obviously fairly bare bones, steel wheels. You don't have a lot of extras, no stepping guards here. And you know what? Let's just take a look at this. A 3500 Tradesman Crew 4x4, and it's a 24 model year, and they're asking almost $90,000, 88 and change. And this is the Cummins right here, 3500 HD. But here I pulled up some calculators just to give you a general idea of how much you're going to look at monthly payments on a vehicle like this. And so let's just call it $75,000 US, because that's closer. We're about 90 Canadian. We'll call it 75, which is a pretty typical high number for a decent spec truck here now. Ram, 60 months, so it's a 5-year term, basically 7% interest rate, which is actually higher on new vehicles in most cases, and $10,000 down, which isn't kind of uncommon for a lot of people. We'll say no trade-in. And with that said, sales tax about 7% and about a $2,000 registration fee actually brings the total to this vehicle here pretty substantial amount. Remember, we said the average household income should not be exceeding about $600-700 a month, based on the average $105,000 household income. And what we're seeing is about a $1,430 per month. That's right, $1,400, $1,430 to take this thing home. And that's your per month for 5 years. That's like being locked in prison for 5 years. It's no wonder people are electing not to buy these expensive trucks. Now, I know you're saying, what about Chevy? What about Ford? Ford's also ramping up their full-size trucks. Their HD trucks are selling like never before. Why is Ford having such a solid year? Why is GM having such a solid year, and yet Ram isn't? So the cost of living crisis is hitting everybody right where it hurts. And as a result, full-size expensive pickup trucks like we're looking at Rams, Fords, even GM products are down year over year. As a matter of fact, this year from last year, same time, first half of 2024, reference to 2023, the industry average for full-size pickup trucks is 2.5% down. But yet, vehicles like Ram, like these Sports, these beautiful Rams here, Bighorns, and everything in between are down almost 20%. That's right, 19.5% down in sales by the Ram brand this year. Stellantis and Ram have literally lost about 45,000 sales of full-size pickup trucks this year as opposed to last year same time. And naturally, with lots of incentives and signs like this, they're not short on advertising by any means. And yet the Rams are simply not selling like they should. And poor sales is further displayed by vehicles like this. Obviously, we have a full-size brand new truck. This is a Ram, chrome wheels. You can tell that you still pretty much have the rubber, the knobbies on the tires. Beautiful truck, but yeah, plastic. Of course, they don't even have a spray and liner. It does have a rear slider, but this one here is a 23 model year. That's right, 2023 1500 Bighorn Crew 4x4 at 2023, and they're still listed at $78,000. It's no wonder they're still not selling. Way too many of these 23s and 24s kicking around yet. So we check our statistics right here, and we'll notice the F-Series last year they sold 382,000. This year 352,000. So they're down slightly. Chevy Silverados 272 up from 264, and then we talk about the GMC Sierra to 148 from 143 last year, and the Toyota Tundra's even stealing some market share. They've gone from 59,700 up to 78,000 units sold, and the Titan by Nissan, which we know those are sort of going away, 10,000 down to about 8,000. They've lost a little bit of ground too, but the biggest loser are the Ram trucks, going from 223 units last year in the first half down to 179,000. If that doesn't tell you the bleeding's still going, I don't know what else does. So a viewer of mine reached out named Vernon, said, you know what, he's struggling with the cost of living, realizing, of course, he doesn't have the money that he once had. Clearly, he actually got a raise the last 3 consecutive pay increases, but it's not enough to keep up with the cost of living. And obviously the inflation that we've been seeing in the last few years has gone through the roof. So even Vernon, while he's entering the market again, thought, you know what, he was looking at one of the big three, looked at the F-150, didn't really like with the quality problems. He looked at the GMC products and kind of liked those vehicles and was sort of torn between that and getting a brand new Ram, possibly a half-ton Ram, maybe something more base model, but then realized, unfortunately, once he actually started putting pen to paper and rubber hitting the road, he realized that they were way outside of his budget now. 6 or 7 years ago, he was able to do it, but now recently, after shopping again, he wasn't able to do it, and he decided to go with a base model Ford Maverick, which they're stealing a lot of the market share because of the price. Now, they're not exactly, from my personal opinion, they're not exactly priced the way they were promised to, but they're still an affordable option relative to the price of these full-size trucks that we're finding all over the marketplace that are out of reach for the average buyer like you and I. Now it feels like there's some deals here. I'm seeing in some of the brand new 25s, prices seem to be down. Rebel Knight down around that 75,000, whereas some of the older generation, the 2024s, like we're looking at right here, are still marked up around that $90,000 for sort of a higher spec, but not top spec trim vehicle. I mean, right here, we have a 2024, this is a Rebel Knight Crew 4x4, and they still have it stickered at $92,000, which is clearly a huge amount of money for this vehicle. Sure, you get the beautiful all-terrain tires, you get this extra trim here, you get painted handles, so it's got a nice level of trim in it. You do get a big sunroof in there, and as well as heated and leather seats. So this is a pretty good specification here, and you still get the 1500 Hemi e-torque right there. Obviously, a lot of people want that V8 engine, that large and in charge Hemi engine, and unfortunately that's a big reason why these vehicles have lost some of the sales in the first half of 24. So even with huge incentives like this, we're seeing employee pricing and big incentives to try to sell these products. And in fact, boots on the ground are showing me a lot of these vehicles appear to be slightly more aggressively priced than a lot of their outgoing models. That's right, I'm seeing a lot better pricing on some of the brand new 25s than I did on the 23s that are still sitting here. And I guess that probably tells the story why the 23s aren't selling and why many 24s aren't selling. A lot of the newer vehicles are trying to price it to sell it, but people aren't buying them. Why? Number one, I think people were insulted by the fact that the prices were jacked up over the last couple of years. Since 21, 22, and 23, prices got out of hand and people were just not having it. Then on the other hand, we talk about these are the older generation engines, you know, ones with Hemi engines. You could still get yourself a glorious V8 engine, and that's what a lot of bread and butter buyers are typically looking for. And now they go and replace the Hemi with a straight inline turbo 6 Hurricane engine. Not everybody wants that. Most people that want these vehicles are looking for the alternative. V8 engine still available, 5-liter Coyote Ford, as well as Chevy and GM. They still got the 5.3s and 6.2s. So when Ram came out and advertised that they were coming out with either the V6 as a base or the turbo 6, a lot of customers just said, you know, I've had enough. That's not my cup of tea, and I'm moving on. So that is part of it. CDK, the outage that they had, the software outage, that was also a bit of a headwind. And then you look at a lot of these vehicles here. They sit here for a long time because a lot of people were worried about quality control issues with Stellantis, Ram, Jeep products. They didn't necessarily have the quality that a lot of people were looking for, and especially since prices were bumped up, now people didn't want to take the risk. And as well, that Ram introduced this new Atlantis electrical system that clearly has had a lot of glitches along the way and has delayed the delivery of a lot of brand new vehicles, and it really hasn't helped the brand all that much when they're trying to send out a new model and it hasn't shown a high level of reliability. Remember the old TIPM, a totally integrated power module on some of the old Jeep, Dodge, Ram products that were known and were notorious for failure? Well, here we go again. So a lot of people are worried about that. It may in fact be improved, but a lot of people are stressing out about it. So the new CEO of Ram, Christine Fuel, has definitely got some major headwinds, trying to come up with some creative ways to get people in the door to buy these new vehicles. But one thing's for sure, everybody that's been reaching out to me says it almost always boils down to price. And if Stellantis and Ram can figure out a way to get these vehicles at a price point that's satisfactory to a lot of buyers, they're simply going to sell more vehicles. And that's the big reason they went from 2019 to 21, where they went from second best selling full-size pickup brand to literally dead last and falling off the cliff. We also know the headquarters CEO is advertising of Stellantis that they want to go full all in with a lot of extra EVs, hybrid vehicles, and yet all that is going to cost money to further enhance the research and development, and those costs are going to be transferred to you, the buyer, when you want to go buy your ICE vehicle. That is insult to injury. So they're going to have to get past this, figure it out, because right there, that video is talking about how Ford's managing their electric vehicle future, and as well as GM's future right there about electric vehicles. It's not all it's cracked up to be. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.